I think I still might be coming in hot today. Making a lot of car vids these days. Really in a groove. If you've missed the last couple, and viewership has been low the last couple, I noticed. If you missed the last couple, I was just watching them. If you like my stuff, because I've been talking about very important subjects, and you're unlikely to hear this info elsewhere on YouTube, except in a few places. One of which is Cecilia Hendrix's YouTube channel, and Cecilia and I will be hosting a free group coaching session this Friday, March 8th at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. So I hope you join us for it if you want. If you are not a member of my mailing list, if you haven't signed up for that, I will put a link below in the description where you can sign up for my mailing list to get the Zoom link for Friday's group session, which again will be at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, and Cecilia will be there with me to answer your questions and go over nuanced stuff, which is what my last few videos have been about, that we don't hear about enough in the manifesting community. And yeah, I think that one of the key things that is completely under-discussed or just avoided in the manifesting space online, generally speaking at least, particularly in the Neville Goddard Law of Assumption community, is an honest discussion of failure. The truth of the matter is most people, we were talking about this in a recent video, and we've spoken about it several times on this channel recently. The truth of the matter is most people who try to apply Neville's advice don't feel fulfilled doing it. They don't have the success they want getting their outer manifestation, especially sustainably. For instance, they might find that they're able to manifest a few things using Neville's advice, the proverbial and literal cup of coffee, for instance, a parking space, stuff like that, which is all good. That's great. But they'll find that they're unable to manifest the big things they want in their life. Or at least maybe if they're, fortunate and effective at utilizing Neville's advice, they might be able to manifest like one big thing in their life, but then they find they're unable to sustainably utilize this information to manifest things consistently using the techniques that Neville advocates for and describes. And this is just not talked about especially in the Neville Goddard community, but the manifesting community at large. Where we hear all about these techniques and we hear the success stories and we assume falsely that a lot of people are having success, consistently utilizing this information, which is utter bullshit. Utter fucking bullshit. Utter bullshit. Most people are failing at this fucking advice. And this advice, if you get dogmatic about it, is probably not going to work very well for you. Period. You got to make it your own, as we were talking about last video. I'm going to put a link above to the last video. I'm just going to be blunt. People act really fucking stupidly on YouTube and on Reddit and on TikTok when it comes to this manifesting advice. You're being really fucking gullible if you believe most of the bullshit that people are spewing. If this stuff was easy, many more people would talk about it and do it. Do it is the emphasis there. Not just talk about it. Because a lot of people talk about it, but do it. One of my friends who has been into this stuff for a long time, he and I were texting yesterday. And he was he gave a great example. He said, like, this Neville stuff, law of assumption stuff, he's like, people talk about it the way that like 10-year-olds talk about sex. You know? It's like they have no idea what it actually is. But they talk about it like, you know, oh, this is, it's like, I'm sure you can think of a situation like that. At least most of you can. You know, you see kids talking about sex and they don't know what sex is. That's how people talk about this law of assumption stuff and, you know, this law of attraction stuff. The reality is that you're going to fail and fail a lot. And what helps is acknowledging that. And what really helps is seeing your failures as a springboard to inevitable evolvement and success. And that, my friends, is what the Neville community, especially, and the law of attraction community in general online, do not want to talk about. They do not want to talk about how you are going to fail a lot. And that's okay. So, yeah. I thought I would read today from a great law of attraction teacher. And I've read this passage from him before. I'll put a link above to a whole playlist we did where we were discussing this gentleman's ideas and related ideas about failing and difficult emotions when you're trying to manifest a better life. The playlist will be above. I'll put a link above and I'll put a link below as well. The gentleman that I'm referencing is Maxwell Maltz. And specifically his masterpiece, Psycho-Cybernetics. I've said it many a time, but if you're new to this channel, I think Psycho-Cybernetics is going to help, you know, many more people successfully and fulfillingly apply manifesting ideas in their life than Neville's advice. That's not a harsh criticism against Neville. It's just that Maltz's ideas that he expresses in Psycho-Cybernetics are more doable for most people. Neville's still great. But what I'd, like for more people who watch YouTube videos about this stuff to realize is that there's a lot of other great manifesting teachers besides just Neville or law of assumption stuff. Maxwell Maltz is one of them. And, one of the criticisms you can make about Psycho-Cybernetics, as I've also talked about, is that the book can almost seem overwhelming at first because there's so many good ideas and techniques that he talks about, but you don't get overwhelmed. Just choose the stuff that works for you and, come back to the other stuff, or just, don't even use the other stuff. Just use the stuff that strikes you as being helpful. One of the main ideas that Maltz talks about in Psycho-Cybernetics is failing your way to success. The taboo subject. Turns out this motherfucking strategy is one of the, better strategies you can probably use from a practical level to improve your life. So again, I've read this passage before. from the great chapter called How to Utilize the Power of Rational Thinking. Just the title of that chapter. I can see people in the law of assumption and Abraham Hicks communities freaking out about that. So fucking stupid. Woof! Yeah, I'm going to read this passage. Maltz writes, as we have pointed out earlier, all skill learning is accomplished by trial and error. By making a trial, missing the mark, consciously remembering the degree of error, and making correction on the next trial, until finally a hit or successful attempt is accomplished. The successful reaction pattern is then remembered or recalled and imitated on future trials. This is true for a man learning to pitch horseshoes, throw darts, sing, drive a car, play golf, get along socially with other human beings, or any other skill. It is also true of a quote-unquote mechanical rat learning its way through a maze. Thus, all servo mechanisms, by their very nature, contain quote-unquote memories of past errors, failures, painful, and negative experiences. These negative experiences do not inhibit, but contribute to the learning process, as long as they are used properly as quote-unquote negative feedback data and are seen as deviations from the positive goal that is desired. However, as soon as the error has been recognized as such, and correction, of course, made, it is equally important that the error be consciously forgotten, and the successful attempt remembered and dwelt on. These memories of past failures do no harm as long as our conscious thought and attention are focused on the positive goal to be accomplished. Therefore, it is best to let sleeping dogs lie. Our errors, mistakes, failures, and sometimes even our humiliations were necessary steps in the learning process. However, they were meant to be means to an end, not an end in themselves. When they have served their purpose, they should be forgotten. If we consciously dwell on the error, or consciously feel guilty about the error and keep berating ourselves because of it, then, unwittingly, the error or failure itself becomes the quote-unquote goal that is consciously held in imagination and memory. The unhappiest of mortals is that man who insists on reliving the past over and over in imagination, continually criticizing himself for past mistakes, continually condemning himself for past sins. One of my favorite passages in one of my favorite books. And you should be able to see the direct parallels with what Maltz is saying and what Neville talks about in regards to imagination. And several of the other terms that Maltz used there, like dwelling, sins, missing the mark, etc. To be general about this stuff, we can look at these various law of assumption, law of attraction ideas from the popular viewpoint. They're usually presented on YouTube and Reddit and elsewhere. And we can try to apply them in that way. Or we can get deeper and more real with ourselves about how we feel on the inside, how we're behaving and thinking and feeling, and start embracing our errors more and head towards the mark we want to hit, the way Maltz describes here. I much prefer the latter. If you have any questions regarding the latter approach, I can be reached at info@radicalcounselor.com. And feel free to reach out to me too for coaching or for the Zoom information for Friday's free group coaching call with Cecilia and me. Be well. Don't be afraid to fail.